So it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome our very own Pastor Tayo Olotu. Pastor, are you there with us?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm very, 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 very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking, I know you're a very busy man, so thank you for taking the time out to talk to us today on properties. And, you know, it is your expertise. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to leave it all to you. And at the end, guys, if you have any questions at the end, please feel free to raise your hands up or type it in the chat box. If any question comes up as he's talking, it's an open discussion, free for all. So please, there's no stupid question. Ask anything and everything you want to know. We don't get to have him all the time. So let's make use of this. So I'll just hand it over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. There's an echo, isn't it?
Oh, I'll just mute.
Okay, maybe it's me. Just hang on. Okay. So let's see. What about now? I can't hear properly.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Look, can everybody hear me as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. God bless you. I guess quite a lot of the people here are from church, level up, next level, young professionals, other clusters. And then there are other people from maybe invited. Thank you guys for organizing this next level. I've had a few opportunities to talk in seminars like this. It's always something that interests many people because they're looking to get on the property ladder. Some of us who are here, or maybe many of us, were looking to buy the first one. And then there might be a few of us who we already bought the first one, but then we're looking to buy many more. Several years ago, even though my background is architecture, so that gave me an edge, but I wanted to learn about property, so I sort of dedicated myself to it. Went for seminars, all kinds of seminars like this, read quite a lot of books. In fact, there was a particular time I was always listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Almost anything you want to do in life anyway, it doesn't really matter whether that's your area or not. If you give it focus, what you discover is after a while, you become an expert in that area, okay? But then the good thing about seminars like this is that you can learn from other people and then cut out avoidable mistakes. So what's taken me 5-10 years can possibly take somebody else maybe 3 years based on the fact that they didn't have access to information that I have. So I'm just going to go straight into tonight's seminar, and I believe that you have a PowerPoint or something like that on how you want us to run tonight.
Yes, I'll share that now with us.
So if you share that, I'll just go straight from there. Okay. Again, I'll just go through this and allow questions rather than just loading you with all sort of information. I mean, I'm sure some of you have attended all kinds of property seminars before. So instead of just loading you with too much information, I'll try and make it as practical as possible. Sometimes I see people go for seminars, they come back with big books like this. There was somebody who went for a seminar one time. He wanted to become a property developer, so he went for a training for like maybe 2 weeks. So they told him all kinds of things: how to source a deal, how to find land, how to make an offer, what to do, planning, building regs, development. They just gave him all kinds of things. And to be honest, the information was very, very good because he was several books. But when I looked at it, I just started laughing. I started laughing because he was just basically theory. I don't see how there was just too much information for him to learn by himself. So I said to him, I said, this is what I do on a daily basis. I said, if you just shadow me for a couple of weeks, it'll be worth this thing that you're paid for. It's just theory. So I don't want to make it another theory seminar. So I'm just going to go through this, and then I'm going to allow questions so that we can bespoke this based on the people who are attending today. So the first thing we said, the first time homeowners, how do you build wealth? Now, one of the things I'd say is in the UK, the government sort of helps people who are first time buyers. In fact, for developers, if you're developing over 14 houses, they make sure that some of those houses are affordable units, affordable so that certain people are able to buy. So some of them you sell as open market. Open market is the normal price on the open market, just anybody wants to buy. But then affordable units are really available for people who are unable to just buy. Okay, that's why they have affordable units. But not only that, the government has schemes where they can actually come in. There are shared ownership scheme. There's help to buy whereby the government can actually put in 20%, and you only have to put in like 5%. Although it depends on the area. For instance, if you wanted to buy a property in Birmingham, I mean, they've changed the scheme now. If you wanted to buy a property in Birmingham, for you to be able to qualify for help to buy, that property would have to be not more than 255,000. So many of the times, I mean, I will go according to these things on the screen, but I'm just, just talking to you generally. Many of the times when people come to me and they're looking to buy their first house, I ask them a few questions. I just say, okay, so assuming that the person is not married, I ask them questions like, okay, um, what sort of immigration do you have in the UK? Do you have a permanent residence in the UK? If you don't have a permanent residence in the UK, not all lenders would touch it. Okay. So what sort of immigration do you have? If you have a permanent residency, it makes it easier. If you don't have a permanent residency, but you have a very good job and you have a very good salary, there's still lenders who will do it usually. Okay. Now, if it's husband and wife, it's even easier. If it's you alone, most of the time, lenders will do maximum 5% of your salary. So say, for instance, you are earning 40,000. So 40,000 times 5, that's 200,000. So ideally, lenders will not give you a mortgage more than 200,000. So at times, people start looking for houses, but they don't know some of the criteria. So some of the things I ask them is, number one, what sort of immigration do you have? Is this something that we're able to get a mortgage for you? Many of the times I would introduce them to different mortgage brokers and see who is able to get them a mortgage in principle. Okay, a mortgage in principle means there's a lender who is happy to lend on your behalf. Okay, so I would ask them immigration status. I would ask them what kind of salary are they earning. I would ask them, is it like a permanent job or is it like a contract job? If you're contracting like a contractor, a project manager or business analyst, I mean, the good thing is that you get a lot of money. The negative thing is that some lenders will say because it's not a permanent job, but then even in the market now, you have specialized lenders who would lend to professionals. They will lend to doctors, they will lend to accountants, they will lend to business analysts, they will lend to lawyers, depending. So many of the times it's a case of asking questions to know what would work for that particular individual, and who you ask determines what response you get. There are brokers that can't, in fact, the moment you say to them, I'm a foreigner originally. I came from Nigeria. I only came in 1 year ago. I don't have indefinite stay. They just say to you, just forget it. Just go and wait for 5 years or whatever until you get your indefinite stay, or as long as it takes. But there's some other there's some other brokers. They know which lenders to go to. At times the rates might be slightly more. It might not even be more, but then they are able to get you those mortgages. So I tend to ask people different questions: your immigration, your salary, the kind of job you're doing, how long you've been on the job, is it a temporary job, is it a contract job, is it a permanent job, all those sort of questions. Okay. Now, the next thing I tend to ask people is, how many bedrooms are you looking at, and where are you looking at? Occasionally, people would say, oh, I'm looking at maybe outside Birmingham. Okay, so if you're looking outside Birmingham, you're looking at Dudley, you're looking at Warsaw, you're looking at Wolverhampton, you're looking at all those, they call them black countries. You'll probably buy them cheaper than Birmingham, which is a good thing. The problem is, if you, in terms of capital appreciation simply means, for people who don't know, if I buy this property today for 200,000, if it's in a good area and the economy is fine, in the next maybe 3 years, 4 years, instead of 200,000, it could actually be worth maybe 230,000. Okay, so that's what you call capital appreciation. So when you buy outside, you know what? Please, can I take a minute? Okay, please. There's quite a lot of noise in the background. It's distracting me. Just give me a second. Okay.
No problem, sir.
Sorry about that. Okay. The children were making noise in the background. I think they think they're in a village, maybe. Yeah, so sorry before the interruption. So questions, to be able to know what would work for an individual. Okay. So when people come and then they say, oh, they want to buy a property, one of the questions I then ask them, like I was saying, somebody might decide to buy out of Birmingham, and then the question is, are you looking to live in that property? Okay. If you're looking to live in that property, are you looking to live in the property long term? If you're looking to live in the property long term, is it that are you single? Are you looking to get married? Is it like maybe a 2-bed will be okay for you? But I mean, if you buy a 2-bed, it's not going to be a long-term thing. Most likely, you'll be there for a while. The moment you start having children, or you marry, you start having kids, you won't be able to stay there. So it might then mean that you need to buy another property and then rent that out. So many questions to determine what's best. I mean, just to digress, one of the things I say to people, there was a particular young couple I was just sort of counseling them, marriage. And then we got talking about different things. So I said to them, I said, are you thinking about, so where you guys gonna be living in once you have the marriage? So they said, oh, we're looking at city center Birmingham, one of those flats in Park Central, to buy. I mean, I used to have 2 flats in Park Central. I still have one there rented out. So I shook my head like this. So they said, why? I said, don't touch it. They said, why? I said, yeah, it looks beautiful. I, as a developer, all day long, I would buy land in city center and build flats and sell. I mean, I don't have any problem. I'm selling it off. I said, but there will be service charge. Your service charge in a year, you're probably looking at about close to about 1,700. You're going to have ground service charge is basically what they charge if you have flats rather than houses. So there's something they call leasehold. I mean, I'm talking as if I'm talking assuming that there's some of us on this line who haven't bought a property before. So there are certain terminologies that you won't know. So there's something called leasehold. Leasehold means you're taking a lease, okay? So many of the times when you have flats or apartments, they are leasehold. That means you don't own the right, or you don't own the right for the land, but the building is yours, but the land does not belong to you. So because of that, you then find that you pay what they call ground rent, and then you pay what they call service charge. So those service charges then takes care of the gardening, keeping the whole place clean. Now, which is all fine. I mean, you could pay 1,000 something every year. The problem is by the time you then move out, maybe it's a 1 bed. Number one, a 1 bed is a non-starter because it won't even have parking and all that. Those are issues when you want to rent it out because the tenant, if they have a car, they can't park. Now, let's even say you get a 2 bed. What then happens most of the time is that you rent it out. Maybe you're getting something like maybe £850 or whatever you're getting every month. By the time you service your mortgage, maybe your mortgage is maybe £300, maybe you have £400 left or whatever you have left. By the time you calculate how much you're paying on service charge in a year, you calculate how much you're paying on ground rent, you literally discover that you don't have much left. So if your tenant calls you that the boiler has gone bad, something has gone wrong, you just discover that you are literally working to help pay service charge. So I said to this young couple, I said, don't touch it. So the person said, but sir, they look very beautiful, the city center. I said, look, when you're dealing with property, detach yourself. It's not only how he looks, it's a numbers game. Does it work? It might not look the most beautiful, but then it works for what you want it for. So there's so many points to take into consideration. But I mean, that's a digression, really. So literally, when you're looking to buy first time, there's so many questions that you have to ask. You have to think about your salary. You have to think about your immigration. You have to think about what sort of mortgage you are able to secure based on your salary. You have to think of, are you looking to live in that place long term? You have to look into, are you looking to rent it out? Now, if you are maybe just newly married, a husband and a wife, ideally, you should be looking at a minimum 3 bed. Because if you go for a 2 bed, after a while, you need to move out quickly. If you go for a 3 bed, at least you have 1 bedroom for a child. You have another 1 bedroom if you have grand in-laws or grandparents coming to help when you have a baby. So ideally, you want to look at about 3 bed. If you already have children, maybe 1 or 2 children, then ideally you should be looking at about 4 bed. Okay. So then after that, you then think, okay, most 3 beds and 4 beds in Birmingham. Again, you have to look at the area. Okay. What sort of area? Can everybody hear me? Can
Yes,
everybody
sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you then have to look at the area. I mean, I'm just saying this, and please understand that I'm not being racist or whatever. There's certain areas when you want to sell properties, you wouldn't get everybody to buy it. For instance, you go buy a property. There are certain areas, maybe Sparkbrook, Smethwick, Alum Rock, City Road, Soho Road. It's literally taking like maybe an Asian area, and I have Asian friends, so please understand that I'm not being racist or whatever. Just like if you went to Bromford, if you went to Bromford, Bromford is on the way to Edenton area. You find a lot of Nigerian. It's almost like a Yoruba community kind of a thing. You could buy there, but you need to just question yourself what you're doing. So if you go and buy in Sparkbrook, number one, when you want to rent, not everybody will want to rent in that area. I'm telling you, you probably won't get professionals, you won't get many professionals, young people who will take care of your property, who would want to rent in there. You won't get a lot of those people who would want to raise up a family in that place. Eventually, when you want to sell it, you're going to sell to maybe other Asian investors who are going to price your property anyhow. So many things come into play. Okay, so you might get a property, a 3-bed property in Sparkbrook for 200,000. You might go to maybe other parts of Queenton or Headington, which are preferable area, and you might get them for 250. And then think about it that you're getting a mortgage anyway. It's not like you're putting all the money down, you're only putting down a percentage. If you are thinking about it on the long term, I would rather pay a little bit more, but then assure myself that it's easier for me to sell this property very quickly. It's easier for me to rent it to other people in future on the long term and get good tenants to maintain the property. So those things come into place. Now, so let me just then go in a different direction. So assume a couple, for instance, as a case study. So the couple, they have maybe a child. The child is 1 year old. They're thinking of buying in Birmingham. Maybe let's say they just newly relocated. Maybe the wife has a job, and then the wife is earning, maybe the wife already had a very good job back from Nigeria or whatever. Maybe the wife is earning something like about maybe 45,000 thereabout. So 5 times 45,000, she can probably get a mortgage of over 200,000, maybe about 220,000. They already have some sort of deposit. For that kind of a person, I will be looking for anything 3-bed minimum or 4-bed. 3-bed because husband and wife in one room, the child in one room, then they have an extra room. Okay. Now that 3-bed, if I was searching for a 3-bed, and later on I will go and search it so you see how to search. I won't be looking for a property which is more than around 250,000. So if I see new builds, they're selling it for 300,000, 320,000, already completely is out of my budget. It's a no-go area because I'm not going to get a mortgage to buy it. So there's no point in wasting my time because you need to know what sort of mortgage you're able to get. That determines where you start looking at, okay? I am then going to be looking at an area where you can raise children, where you possibly have good schools. It might not be top notch, but it's okay, okay? And so from that, I'm then looking, okay, if I have 5% or 10%, that's the kind of thing I would do. Now, let's leave that kind of case study alone. Let's assume there's a student or a young professional unmarried. You're looking to get your first time property. I will be looking at minimum 2-bed. If I can get 3-bed, fantastic. I will then look at my salary. So what's my salary? Maybe my salary is 28,000. If it's a 28,000, so let's say it's 28,000, maybe a graduate scheme job, whatever. So 28,000, even at the maximum, even if I get 5 times 28,000, it is still less than 150,000. So I can't get a mortgage that is more than 150,000. Let's even say my parents, my dad and mom are willing to help me, and I have some of the money. So it might be, if I don't have any immigration problem, then I might be able to get away with 5%. So then the mortgage people will give 95%. He then simply means I shouldn't be looking for anything more than anything from maybe 140,000 to maybe 160,000, 170,000 max, because I would then put in part of the deposit. Now, in Birmingham of today, you're going to struggle to get a new 2-bed, which is being sold, a new 2-bed house, not an apartment. Maybe an apartment you can get it, but a new 2-bed house, you're going to struggle to get anything for the range of that 140, 150. No, again, depending on the area, you won't get some of those things. So then that means it's either I'm looking at a new build, which is around 200,000, but then I'm looking for the government help to buy. In which case, the government will give me 20%. So 20%, if the property is worth 200,000, 10% is 20,000, 20% is 40,000. So the government will give me 40%, 20%, which is 20% will be 40,000 in that case. And then I need to put in 5%, which 5% of 200,000 will be 10,000. And then I need to get a mortgage for the remaining 75%. Okay. Now, the good thing about that is that he allows me to get on the property ladder. The negative thing is that the government owns 20% of that property. But if I'm buying in the right place, and that's where buying in the right place matters. If I'm buying, I mean, recently we started a new development in Sheldon. Sheldon, just on the outskirts of Solion. Started in December, 11 houses. I mean, literally we sold, it's only one remaining. In fact, we sold 5 without any adverts, just people walking past the site. You know, grace of God, but also looking at the right location. So if you buy in the right location, most likely with the HSS and every other thing, HS2 train and all that, what would happen is that that property would appreciate shortly in a few years. When that property appreciates in a few years, what you can then do is go back to the mortgage lender and say the property was worth 200,000 when I bought it. Now it's worth 240,000, and then refinance it. Hopefully you have some other savings, and say to the government, this is your money plus, because they will also take like a little bit more, because they will take a little bit more depending on what the property is now worth at that time, because they're not giving you the money for free anyway. It's an equity. And so if the property appreciates, they to the benefit in the appreciation. So you can then pay them off and say, you know what, I paid you off, the property belongs to me now. But the good thing with that scheme is that it allows you to get on the property ladder. But assuming that you are not even qualified for help to buy for whatever reason, or so assuming that for whatever reason, based on the circumstance, it's better for you to buy an old property. If you're buying an old property, you won't qualify for help to buy, because help to buy is only on new builds anyway. So and at times I advise people to go for old houses at times. Old houses, not in terms of that the property is very, very old, because if it's very, very old, you're likely to have problems with the heating, all kinds of issues, kitchens and all that. But many of the times, if a property is still within 10 years, most likely it will still be new to an extent. And maybe the only changes you need is maybe putting a new boiler, maybe with another 1,002 or whatever it is, putting a new boiler, maybe the kitchen doors may need changing. So you might not get a new property exactly, and then it can be repainted and redecorated. You might not get a new property exactly, but you will still be able to get a 2-bed. In fact, you get a 3-bed within the range of maybe 170,000, 180,000, Eddington area, that are not new, but are still in very, very good condition. So you could live in that sort of place and then you could sort of rent it out with time. But anyway, so let me just go follow, what's on the screen. So we say how to build wealth. Property allows you to build wealth. Um, how he works normally is that if you buy well, then most likely he would appreciate. And then when he appreciates, you have money in the equity. Literally, that's how he works. Many times when you rent out, you can still make money if it's renting out very, very well. But again, that's basically how to build wealth. Now, mortgages basically are loans given to you by the bank to help you to buy properties, okay? So what will determine what you can get is based on your salary, really, okay? Help to buy schemes is a scheme by the government where literally the government helps you to get on the property ladder by giving you 20% deposit. But then in Birmingham, the property needs to be not more than 255,000. Okay, if it's somewhere, if it's London, yeah, you can get a little bit more. Okay, how to save to buy? Basically, you need to develop a culture of saving, and a culture of saving simply means that uh, you have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional. You have to be disciplined. You have to cut your coat according to your size. There's no other way. Um, when I came to Birmingham first, I was quite desperate to get on the property ladder. I had never bought any property after that time. Um, in fact, I was already 30 something. So we got married, came into Birmingham, but then I was quite keen. So I started going for seminars, listening, gathering information. I would just stay online. I would read everything: mortgage, leasehold, freehold. What does it mean? All those terminologies were strange to me at the time. Started reading a lot of things. Okay. At times I would drive around Friday evening. I don't have anything to do. I just drive around Birmingham. Times I will buy maps. I will go to petrol station, buy the map of Birmingham. I will look at different areas, Arbonne, Quintin, different areas. Then I'll just drive around those areas, and then I'll see is anything available to buy. I will go on Rightmove. I will go on Rightmove shortly. For those of us who don't know anything about Rightmove, I will go on Rightmove. I will put in certain postcodes. I will check within 3 miles radius. I will see what's available. Basically that's how I started learning. But then as I started learning, my salary at the time, because I had a car allowance as well. I had a car allowance. I had a bonus, maybe 30 something thousand, the whole package. So one of the first things I did was I initially, when we moved into Birmingham, number one, I only rented a room. So you can imagine myself and my wife, new couple, we moved into Birmingham. I had a Peugeot 406 car, and I could afford to pay a rent of £1,000. But then I went into rent a room at the time, just for a few weeks. And then eventually I looked around a lot, and then I got a house. That house was no more than £500 at the time. Now, what that did was, because my rent was only £500, I was able to save a lot of money. So you can imagine if my take home was, say, £2,000, and I was only paying £500 as rent. By the time I pay all the bills and everything, I probably had like almost £1,000 left. So I made sure that I cut my coat according to my size. We paid off some of the money because after we had our wedding, there were still some bills that we needed to pay. There was some money we had to withdraw from credit cards and all that just to make everything work. We paid off all those bills. We were just literally focused. And for 1 year, we saved. So by the time I was ready to buy my first property, we already had some savings. And then at the time, there was something called gifted deposits. Now, the reason why I'm explaining all this is, as a young person in the university, as a young professional, newly married couple, you need to save. And the only way to save is to intentionally cut your coat according to your size. Just don't buy things you don't need. This is very simple. Don't buy things you don't need. Don't, I mean, if you're, by the grace of God, you have a very good job and then you are able to save easily, fantastic. If you're not, then just cut your coat according to your size. So that's literally how you save, okay? A new building versus old building. New buildings are attractive, they are nice, they are neat. When you move in, everything is sparkling. For a period of time, 1 year, there's warranty for almost everything. For 10 years, you have a structural warranty. So new builds are attractive. New builds, however, you might be paying a premium, just like when you buy a new car. The good thing about property against property compared to car is that usually if you buy well, property appreciates, or meanwhile car depreciates. Okay, if you have done your due diligence in terms of the location that you're buying in and you've bought at the right price, then there's nothing wrong with new build because it will just go up anyway. If for whatever reason you find yourself not being able to afford a new build, then the next step is to look for old build, which is not very, very old. Maybe definitely no more than 10 or 12 years. And then, yeah, just buy those because they'll be cheaper, and they will still be good. And then you might get value for your money, okay? Now, what aspect of the property to check when property hunting? Again, I sort of mentioned that the state of the house itself, things like boiler, things like radiators, those are the basic things you check for, really. Now, stages of buying a property. So your stages of buying a property, number one, you start searching. You find the property that you want to buy. When you find the property that you want to buy, you make an offer. If the offer is accepted, fantastic. So if the offer is accepted, fantastic. You would then need to instruct solicitors. So your solicitor would liaise with the solicitor of the owner, and literally that's how he works. Now, let me just pause before I go to the next screen. Okay, am I able to share my screen? If you
Yes, sir, you should. I already made you a co-host, so I'll stop sharing mine for now. So
okay.
you should be able to.
So let me just share my screen, and then from sharing my screen, we would then go to the other stuff. So where's my? Okay, let's see. Sorry, I just see what I have here. Okay, so let's see. So are you able to see my screen? Okay.
Yes, sir, we can see it, sir.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, good. So let me just see if I can run this down. Sorry, the controls seem to have gone up. Computers are all right. Let's see. Okay, good. Now, so let's see. Okay. Now, for many of us will already know this. Okay. Again, I'm trying to get a balance between people that already know much about properties and people who don't know a lot about properties. So that's why. So forgive me in case some of these things are things you already know. Now, one of the major websites for property purchase in the UK is Rightmove. Okay. anywhere, whether you're in London, Birmingham, Glasgow, anywhere you are. Literally, if you look at this, this is how you search. So say for instance, you wanted to search Birmingham. Let's just say Birmingham. Okay, so let's put in Birmingham. You're looking for sale or to rent. So we say for sale. So it gives you that. And then it says which area, just say this area only. If you want to extend outside of Birmingham, you can say a quarter of a mile, half a mile, 1 mile, 3 mile radius. So you will start to cover places like Wolverhampton, maybe Coventry, all those sort of things. But we can just say this area only. Okay, so property type. Let's say we're looking at houses. We're not looking at flats. So price range, let's set it at 200. Okay, let's set it at 250,000 max. Okay. Okay, let's set it at the minimum, maybe 120,000. Number of bedrooms, let's say 4 bedrooms. Minimum 2 bedrooms. Okay, and then let's say find. Okay. So it comes up with some of the cheapest ones, 170,000. Those are not looking very great. Okay, but look at this. This is a 3-bed semi-detached. It's B73 somewhere in Sutton, well, it says Sutton Coldfield. That's what it says. Now, if I go inside, okay, if I go inside, you can see some of the pictures. So it's not a new build, but if it's really Sutton Coldfield, now it might be on the boundary of maybe Sutton Coldfield and Headington, but it won't be a bad purchase. And like I said, if you are earning like 40,000, 40 something thousand, and times 5 of that, you start getting close to that. You won't get help to buy on this anyway because it's not new. Okay, now look at another one. This one is even a 3-bed detached house. It says somewhere in Baltimore, 250,000. Now it doesn't mean that you have to pay 250,000. You could negotiate it down, but this sort of just gives you an idea. Now this one is Town Cross. I don't know where that is. It's 4-bed, so and it's only 250,000. This other one is actually in Great Bar. Great Bar is slightly outside of Birmingham. It's a 3-bed. It's 250,000. Now, so you find some other one, 4-bedroom, B14, okay, which is not bad. It's a townhouse. Again, for somebody young, you might just want to take maybe a bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and rent out some of the rooms. It would help you to pay the mortgage. So, I mean, again, look at this. This is 3-bed, detached, 250,000. Okay. So, Rightmove is literally where you search, and then see this one is actually a new home by Dixon's. This one, if you look at where my cursor is in King's Norton. Okay, B38. Yes, it might not be exactly. King's Norton is not too far from Selly Oak area. Yeah, it might not be exactly very close to city center, but you'll get it rented out because you'll find professionals who are looking to stay there. I mean, if you look at the kitchens, fantastic. So literally what I've just done, it's an easy way, but I mean, these were things I learned over the years just by practicing. So these are ways for you to search. Now, let me go back and refine my search, because of time. If I go back, so if I go back to my search, okay, if I go back to, I'm just gonna go back to the original place, okay. Okay, so let's say, let me go back to Birmingham, okay. Birmingham, okay, let's say for sale, okay. So this area alone, let's say again, houses, because again, I don't encourage a lot of people to do flats. And if you want to do flats, fine. But like I mentioned, service charge, ground rent, you find that you're paying for somebody else, okay? So let's set the maximum to, let's set the maximum to 180,000, okay? Let's set the minimum to 100,000. I mean, again, we'll try and see what we can get. Most likely some of the houses you get, they won't be the best, but let's see. 2-bed, okay. Include, okay, you can click this. That means you're saying include those ones under offer, okay, just in case it falls through. So maybe somebody's put an offer in. Now you can see this is in Smethwick. Again, Smethwick is not the greatest of area, but it's okay. 180,000. So literally, let me try and see. Okay, let's see. Let's set it to the lowest price. Okay, so he gives us the result based on the lowest price. Okay, so this one is literally like a new build, 180,000. There's something end of terrace, Coventry Road, Sheldon. Look at this. Okay, but this one is an auction. The guide price is 100,000. Definitely it will be more than that. Auction is just, that price is just to encourage people to come and bid. But okay, so this one is in Harborne. Now look at this. If you look at this, this is in Harborne. It's in auction. It's not looking very great. But you know the funny thing. Okay, so let's say at the auction. I mean, I don't know how much it will go for, but let's say at the auction, let's even say he goes for, I don't know, maybe 150,000. The thing about auction is that you need to buy the property within 28 days. You need to put down a deposit straight away. So for somebody who is looking to buy for the first time, who is a first-time buyer, auction might not be your best bet unless maybe you're a young person, you're a professional, but you have a very good job. God has helped you. You've sort of been able to make quite a bit of money. Then yeah, maybe auction might work for you. Now, even though it doesn't look great, I'm telling you now, this will be like a cash cow. The reason being, very close to Harborne, you've got the QE, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. You've got Selly, which is not too far. You have medical doctors, you have all those medical students living around that area. You're going to have professionals living around the area. In fact, you're going to have Airbnb. Airbnb, if you don't want to live there, Airbnb will come to you because there are people always coming for hospital treatment at QE all over the world. People from Pakistani, people from all over the world, they travel as a family. They need an operation at QE. They need somewhere to stay. Airbnb for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. Airbnb will, even though you're buying it for 100,000 and your mortgage on this may, let's even say you buy for 150,000, your mortgage may not be more than maybe 350,000. Airbnb will gladly pay you maybe 1,002 or more for this kind of a thing. You don't need to manage it, just give it to them. They will just be paying you because they will get much more than that. So again, that's just explaining that every property is based on its merits. You can't, every property is different. Every property now over time, I can literally just look and analyze area where would it be good, would it not be good, whether it's attractive or not. I can literally just tell you the statistics. But he was a skill developed over time. So you know that because it looks, so somebody else might look at this and say, oh, no, I won't touch it. But somebody else might touch this and you may be making maybe 750, 800 pounds every month just on it. So again, it's just what it is. And that's why when you then have opportunity, you need to be able to speak to people, speak to somebody like me, the other guys that I work with, speak with them. Okay. Again, let's just scroll down and look at a few. So you find another one. So this one is in Eddington, a 3-bed, is going at auction 100,000. Is not looking great, but again, it's just what it is. This one is 110, is B45. It's a 3-bed, and to be honest, okay, so it's a shared ownership. That's why it's like that. So maybe they're selling only 50%. So maybe the price of it is maybe 220. They're only selling 50% of it. Again, that's why it's that cheap. Okay. Again, Smedic 110. It's there. Let's just scroll down. Okay, this is a 2-bed. So this one is a 2-bed. Where is this? So this is a 2-bed. Smethwick. Okay, so look at this. So this is a 2-bed in Smethwick. It's okay. It doesn't look too great. It doesn't look too bad either. It's definitely not a new build. But if you are just looking in terms of what you can afford, let's say you're very unlikely to qualify for Help to Buy, this might be it, really, because something like this, you don't need a lot of mortgage on it. Okay, your salary will probably carry it. If you're earning 20 some, almost about 30 something thousand times 4 or times 5, you only need to put in a little deposit. So in reality, it's your situation and so many other factors that then determines what you go for. Okay, now let me just leave this because of time. So let me leave this. So this is how to search Rightmove. Okay, now there's some other websites. Let me just, there's this website called Net House Prices. Okay, you can also do this on, you can do this on Rightmove. Actually, let me go on Rightmove. So if I go on Rightmove, you can check the, because at times you're thinking, what offer should you make? Okay, what offer should you make on a property? Okay, okay. So if you go house, so Rightmove, if you see a Rightmove, you see buy, rent, find agents, house prices. So if you go around house prices, if you go property valuation or sold house prices, okay. So if I'm going to put in a postcode of a property, one of the first properties I bought, B74NF. Okay, let me just say list view. Okay, you can list view or map view. Okay, now this particular property, if you look at this property, number 66 NH Street, is next to my first property. That's the first property I lived in was 64. So there were 2 semi-detached. I actually wanted to buy this property, but then at the time I made an offer, it was the first one. I didn't have experience. Before I knew, somebody else had bought it. When it was built 10th of September 1998, and you can see all those information. Okay, it's a house, but then it was classified as a leasehold. So Birmingham City Council were the owner of the land, but then because it's a house, you could buy the leasehold from them. So apparently they must have bought it because now it's freehold, but it used to be leasehold. I also bought my own leasehold so that I can actually own it. So I had to pay Birmingham City Council some money. But what I wanted to look at is when it was sold originally as a new build, it was 59,950. At the time I wanted to buy it, I think I made an offer for can't even remember, 100 and something. Anyway, and the people said no. So I thought, okay, they'll come back to me. Then somebody else made another offer, and then it was sold. But at the time, I think I wanted to buy it for around maybe 104, 105,000. That was 2006. Now it was recently sold last year. It was sold at 185,000. Now that particular property is very close to the church, NH Street, very close to the church. You wouldn't say Nichels is a very great area. When you're looking at great areas, you're talking of Sutton Coldfield, you're talking of Harborne, you're talking of Edgbaston. In fact, after that time, they said the crime rate in Nichels was a little bit high. Again, you need to just balance the information. But at the time I bought it, regardless of all the reports, one of the things I was looking at was that it was very, very close to Hastings Uni. And because it was very, very close to Hastings Uni, you always find students who want their privacy, who don't want to stay in hostels. And it's cheaper. And so I bought mine at the time. And to be honest with you, rarely have I had times when it's empty. In fact, the last set of tenants who have been there, they've been keeping it. They have probably been there for like maybe 3 years or something like that. So the mortgage on it is maybe 200 and something. I think they probably pay like 675, something like that. So he was one of those ones that location, location, location. So you think about it. So you could find negative reports. And then you weigh, you look at the positive, you look at the strengths, SWOT analysis, you look at the strengths, the weaknesses, all kinds of things, and then you make a decision. And then most of the time, if you know somebody who is into property, maybe like myself or other people, you speak to them and say, look, I'm looking into this. What do you think? And then they can sort of guide you and say, yes, no, I would go for it. It's a good deal. Recently, one of the guys around, he wanted to buy a property. He said, Pastor, he said, would you follow me? I said, I'll follow you. We went outside of Birmingham. We looked at the property. The property was 2-bed, but the guy who owned the property had already started converting the loft. So there was already eating and everything there. All they needed was just the staircase and then renovate the kitchen. And I said to the person, I said, look, I said, it's a good deal. I said, because they've already spent half the money to convert the loft. All you then have to do is put in a Velox there, and then you have a 3-bed, wait a few years, and then revalue it, and then maybe take some money out. So again, it's all based on all these things. Okay, so let me then go back again. There are other websites. So if you Google new homes, it will give you all the new homes in Birmingham or wherever. If you go net house prices, it would allow you to find how much a property was sold for when. So you could look at that. You could look at the map. For instance, this one that I showed you. So if I say B7 4NF and I say map view, it would show you all the other properties around the area. So when you put in your cursor, it will tell you how much it was sold for and what date, how much it was sold for, what day, how much. So you can literally have an idea. And then if you scroll to your left-hand side, you see other postcodes within like maybe 1 meter radius and how much they're selling for. You can click on those streets and literally it takes you into all those things, really. I mean, this Bodmin Grove, I bought a property there at the time. It was a townhouse. It was around 2008. At the time I bought it, I think I bought it for 135,000. To be honest with you, I paid over the odds because at that time, most of the other houses around were cheaper. But then again, you weigh all the information to make a decision. But this house was is one of these houses that they are built for HAs, housing association. So housing association gets a developer to develop them. They rent them out to people. So it's like a shared ownership. So the person living there pays a rent to the housing association, but then that person has the opportunity to buy the remaining share. So I bought it, and the reason why I bought it was 3 floors. The bedrooms were extremely big. The doors were big. Everything was big. When I looked at it, each floor could easily be a flat. So even though it was a 3-bed house, townhouse, but it could easily be converted to like 3 flats. So I was looking at the future, the kind of money he would bring in. I mean, that property, I haven't sold it. We've renovated it, done it up. It's probably worth like 350,000 now. And at the time I bought it, was just like maybe 130. So in fact, I remember that the guy, the valuer that the bank sent, he met me. And then he said, how much am I buying it for? I said, 135,000. He said, but I can't justify any other one around there. He said, are you happy to pay 135,000? I said, yes. So he wrote his report at 135,000. Now, somebody else might say, but there's somebody who comes to me all the time. He sees this property, he wants to buy, he can't buy. He sees another one, he says it's too much. Then I say, look, you need to make your mind up. Look at all the factors. You would go, even if you rent it per room, or even if you gave it to people who do, what do you call these things? This care thing, people who take disabled people, disability and all that, people from the council, even if they take the property from you and it's like a 5-bed house or 4-bed house, they'll probably pay you like 1,000 to 1,003. So again, all these factors come into play in making a decision. But again, let's just go back to what we're using. So if you put back your own screen so that I can just follow that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
How many more minutes do I have?
You have about, I'll give you about 30 more minutes, sir.
Okay, that's fine. I'll try and finish within 15, 20 minutes so we can go
Okay,
to questions.
okay, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so go to the next page. Okay. Okay. So strategies to buy. Buy to be honest, if you're buying for the first time, I think you need to buy in your own name first. But you can buy the first one and have it in mind that maybe you want to rent it out. So you could buy it, but you're thinking about making it a buy to let. Okay, but if you want to buy the first one, ideally they would ask you, are you going to be living in there? I mean, there's no point in buying buy to let when you haven't bought for yourself first. But you could buy your first one, having in mind that literally it's not your last bus stop. You're just buying it and then you're going to convert it to investment properties eventually. So yeah, so buy to let means you are buying, but then you are letting it out. Okay, there are mortgages for buy to let, but then you start from even buying for yourself first of all. Okay, buy, refurbish, and resell. Again, this is for somebody skilled, not for somebody who's starting, because you can easily lose money refurbishing. I mean, you can buy. There was a development there was a development I did in Dudley several years ago. It was a solicitor's office, 4 floors. I bought it at the auction. Um, I converted it into flats, very luxury, nice flats. But when I sold it, I actually lost money. When I considered how much I took from the bank, how much I bought it for, how much and that's why I say to people that location, location, location. If you go buy in a particular place because it's cheap, yeah, fine. But when you want to sell it in a few years' time, most likely you're gonna sell it not too expensive as well. So you won't have appreciated as much as other locations. So you need to just think about that. Okay. So buying, refurbish, and resell is literally you buy, um, you analyze it, you get builders to refurb it, you could sell it. But I would say that's for sophisticated people. I mean, I've done that. I don't do that any longer. But I'd say let's even start from just even buy the first one, buy the other one to let. When you buy the other one to let, you get into maybe a little bit of refurbishing, dealing with tradespeople. Tradespeople can be devilish, almost devilish at times. I mean, you can take your money, mess you up, but then you could have a very good relationship. So even just start getting painters, repainting, all those sort of things, and then you get comfortable with that. Then we think, okay, you know what, maybe auction or maybe not auction, buy one that has potentials, and then maybe do an extension, and then yeah. So it's basically that. Now HMO, again, you get an HMO license. It's rented out per room, or if you want, you can give it to people who are care providers, and literally you rent it to them. Okay. So what is a good investment property? There's no one there's no one word to describe that. A good investment property is a property that, based on all the parameters, it makes sense. The numbers work. So it might not look attractive, but the numbers work. Just like the other one we were looking at, very close to Harbon, that I said to you that easily you get tenants because of the QE. Okay, a good investment, you could buy something in Sheldon or Solihull. It might be a new build, but then you know that that area would appreciate. It becomes a good investment. A bad investment is anything that takes money from you. So for instance, if you then go buy a one-bed apartment in city center, what's your long-term goal? What are you trying to achieve? Are you going to stay there forever? You could rent it out, but then the amount of money you're going to be paying on service charge and ground rent, is it really a good investment when you think about it? Maybe not. I mean, yeah. So those are the things really. So let's go to the next page, really. So let's go to the next one. Okay. So when is it best to buy your first investment property? As soon as you can. Ideally, it's better for you to buy well. Right now, the for a very long time, they've been saying that property prices will dip, there will be a recession, but it hasn't happened. And I tell you the reason why it hasn't happened. One of the reasons why it hasn't happened. One of the reasons why it hasn't happened is because of COVID. Because apparently when COVID came, the government pumped a lot of money into the system, helping businesses. There are many people that took all those COVID loans. They were not gonna do anything with those money. They were literally just abusing the system. So there were people who already had businesses. They took those COVID loans. They took 50,000. They took 25,000. They took 30,000, sitting in their account. They don't know what to do with it. They want to buy a property because there's liquidity in the system. It keeps driving up the property prices. So again, that's how you know this analysis. During COVID, we were selling a particular property, and that property was meant to be 350,000 or something like that. The guys who were buying it, they were struggling with their mortgage, so we put it back on the market. And then we got somebody else, and that person was offering us maybe 340 or 330. I thought it was very, very silly. So he told the estate agent, he said that we have been hearing it in the news that the property market will crash. I said he's silly, he doesn't know what he's saying. I said the property market will not crash because the government has pumped money, because it's economics, demand and supply. So there's more money in the market, and not many people were building during COVID. And I've been proved right. In fact, we sold it for more eventually. And the guy, we just told him, we said, we're not accepting your offer. And property prices has been going through the roof. Now, so when is it right to buy? If you have your money now, why not? You just need to just buy in the right place. That's fine. At some point in the future, it could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, it's a cycle. You see, it dips, it comes back up. It dips, it comes back up. Stocks, everything, that's how it works. For people who have good money, maybe God blesses you, you're an accountant, you're a medical doctor, you have a very good job, you're saving money. If you become like that, then you become a strategic investor. A strategic investor means at times you make sure that you have money, a pool of money, and you're not wasting it. You're not rushing to buy, and you can do other things. And then opportunity comes where things dip. Then you come in and then you buy very well. But you don't know when you're going to be able to do that. Maybe it's another 2-3 years. If you're just saying, when would it be the best time to buy? As long as you have your money, it's now. You have good opportunity, it's a good area, then just buy, okay? Would it be best to buy your first residential property before your first investment property? Absolutely, yes. I've answered that. But then when you're buying your first property, also think ahead that you might move out of that and then you can turn it into an investment property. How do you leverage your residential home for your investment property? Well, if your residential home has appreciated, you might just be in a position to refinance or refinance or remortgage. Remortgaging simply means I bought the property at 200,000. The property is appreciated to 240,000. It's got 40,000 equity. I go back to the bank. I take out part of that 40,000 and invest into something else. But now let me say this: it's mentality. I have never refinanced, like pull out money out of a property. It's just not my mindset. My mindset is just pay off the mortgage and forget it. So you could have several properties, just pay them off. So on certain properties, you have huge equity and then just leave them. Now, you might argue that, okay, maybe the money is not doing much for you there. But when you borrow, if you don't get a balance, you're going to overexpose yourself. So when you overexpose yourself, so you borrow this, you put it somewhere else, you borrow this, you start stretching. God forbid there's truly a recession and then the market dips. And for whatever reason, maybe you can't get the kind of rent. Your mortgage lenders are not the most friendly. You could struggle and then it could be repossessed. So a good investor knows that you don't spend all your money, you don't stretch yourself to the elastic limit. You leave things there. So I can have a property where there's 100,000 equity there. I don't even care. You could have a property where you have 150,000. You don't care. So as you become skilled, what happens is God will start to provide other means whereby, as you talk to other people, I don't know how to explain this, because some of these things are not things that you can teach exactly like that, how the opportunities come. For instance, I mean, I get opportunities all the time. There's an opportunity we're looking at now, maybe almost 200 and something units. Somebody came, they needed help. Mine is to link an investor, bring in, form a company. I then almost take control. The only thing is we build. In fact, I could literally say my money is not in it. Now, that's also because of where I am, because the kind of people that would approach me would not approach somebody who is doing a first-time buy. But what I'm saying in essence is, don't have the mindset that, okay, you buy, you pull out the money. It's debt and debt and debt. You start one. If you need to pull out money, fine. If you don't need to pull out money, as you pray and then as you network, as you talk with other people, what you find is opportunity comes. Somebody has money, somebody wants to do something, there's something in it for you, you make money. It's not something you plan, it's not something that you can teach that exactly this is how it works, because each opportunity is different. And then you're able to make use of other opportunity. And then as you engage other spiritual things, you just see that God is just making way. And that's really how it works. Okay. How to leverage your residential. So I've explained that. Is there any other page, Ife?
That is actually it from our side. Those were the questions we could come up with on our own too.
So I think we should go to questions, because I've taken a lot of time. So let's just go to questions.
Okay, I'll stop sharing now. So guys, if you have any questions, feel free to just unmute your mic or just raise your hand and I can call your name. So does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so my question.
Is that Georgia, yeah?
Yes, sir.
Georgia,
thank you very much for your time, sir, this evening. Fine, thank you. I'm just curious about the shared ownership stuff, like how that works and what your take is on shared ownership. Because sometimes I see it on, like, let's say, Rightmove and stuff. So especially for a buy-to-let property, so not buy-to-live, but buy-to-let.
Okay. So number one, depending on where you are. Okay. So if somebody is asking me, they're living in Birmingham, they have a level of money, I would say to them, okay, what do you want? Do you want to buy a new build? If they can't afford a new build, I'm going to encourage them to buy something which is not new. And they don't have to do shared ownership, just their own money. Okay. If they can't even buy it by themselves, then I'm going to encourage them that rather than not getting on the property ladder, then do shared ownership, because at least you know you're on the property ladder. The only thing I won't encourage them to do shared ownership, maybe with a flat, but I can. If the flat is, so if somebody wanted to buy a flat in city center, all those new build, I probably would say no. If somebody wanted to buy a flat that belongs to council, I would say yes, because when you eventually have the opportunity to buy it, council will sell it to you at a discounted price anyway. So you could end up already making 30,000 to 40,000 by just buying it from the council. So again, it depends on every situation. Now, let's say somebody wanted to buy a property somewhere in Hertfordshire, very close to London, and maybe the average price of property is 350,000, something like that. Even if you look at your salary, maybe you can't even buy it, you're going to struggle. I would say do shared ownership, because at least it helps you to get on the ladder. Okay. Now, the question you then need to ask yourself is, if you wanted to buy as a buy to let, will they allow you to do the shared ownership? Because the shared ownership is meant to help, is literally what you call affordable housing. So it's meant to help people who cannot afford it. So the moment they know that you're going to do buy to let, I doubt whether they're going to allow you to do that. Most organizations, it's only a few organizations, most of them will not allow you to do that. If, however, you're buying it as your first time buyer, but in your mind you already know that, okay, I'm only buying it from now. In another 2-3 years time, I'm going to buy another property, and this one is probably going to be turned into buy to let. Okay, so that's fine. So you go in as a first time buyer, they help you. You could buy them off. You turn it into, maybe at times there might be restrictions. They might say, maybe you can't do this for a short time or whatever it is. And then you buy them off or whatever you want to do. You move on. You then make it a buy to let. But when you started, it was actually as a first time buyer. So I would, my short answer is, yes, you can do shared ownership, but you would have to look at each case. Each case is what would determine whether is it, yes, a good thing to do, or is it not is it a bad thing to do, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Okay. Was I able to answer your question, Georgia?
Yes, you did. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
the thing is, because the buy-to-let is 25 or I think something percent you have to put down as deposit, right? Like it's a lot more than
5%, so they'll give you 20%. So you only need the mortgage for 75%.
yeah, but you need to bring in 25% and they would give you 75%.
No. So are you talking of buy to let? Oh, sorry.
Yes, buy-to-let.
Oh yeah. So buy to let, they would, yeah. So buy to let, they would ask you, yeah. You see, the 25% thing is also to discourage people who are doing buy to let, because it's taken that because a lot of people are doing buy to let. So because they keep buying properties, then there's not enough property for first-time buyers, because they keep driving up the prices of property. So that's why they make it more difficult, so that first-time buyers can get on the ladder. So literally, yeah, it's 25%. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Emmanuel, you had your hand up. Do you still have a question?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Pastor.
Emmanuel, how are you? Yeah.
I'm fine, sir. Thank you so much for the information so far. One theme that runs through everything you've been saying so far, sir, is the location. So do you have an insight into location, well, into areas in Warwickshire, such as Rugby or Leamington Spa?
Okay. While I might not know details, number one, Rugby or Leamington Spa, all those places are smaller areas, okay? Even Coventry. And funnily, they are good areas to buy in. You'll be surprised. You want to buy in Rugby all day long, better than Black Country, Warsaw, all those other areas. I'm telling you, very good areas. Again, you have doctors, you have hospitals, you have people buying in those areas. So generally, it's a good area. You would then depend on maybe the streets, exactly what you're buying. So again,
Sure.
I don't know particular streets, but I can just tell you that generally you want to buy in Rugby. Yes, good area.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think Hannah, you're next. Yeah.
Hi, Pastor. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared so far. I'm doing fine, thank you. So my question is about residential mortgages versus buy-to-let mortgages. So would you say that it's possible to buy a house with a residential mortgage, live there for like a few years? Let's say it's like a 3-bedroom house, for example. But then let's say you don't need all of the rooms in the house. So would it be possible to rent out those rooms with a residential mortgage? Or would you have to change it to a buy-to-let mortgage to do that?
Now, if you buy a property as a residential mortgage, so let's say, for instance, you have a graduate job, if you then decide to go for a 3-bed house, you buy a property maybe in Headington or somewhere, you are staying in one of the rooms, you want to rent out to some of your friends, that's fine. You want to rent out to other professionals, that's fine, no problems. You're living there, that's your decision. If you want to move, so let's say you move out of Birmingham or you're moving to a different house, and then you want to rent out the entire house, ideally, they expect you to come back to them. They then give you permission. It's then converted into what is called a let to buy. So a buy to let is from the onset when you're buying it to rent it out. A let to buy is you did not intend to let it out originally, well, in quotes, formally. But for whatever reason, you then found yourself in a situation where you bought it. Maybe jobs, you're changing to London, you don't want to sell it, you still want to keep it. You go to them, you will be converted to a let to buy. The rates will be higher. So they expect you to go to them. Now, unofficially, many people will not go to them. They will just rent it out whichever way anyway. But ideally, they expect that if you're not living there, you should come back to them and turn it into a let to buy, if it makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah.
Okay, I think next is Ore.
Good evening, Pastor. Thank you for the seminar so far. My question is regarding hypothetically getting a second property. I understand the extra costs that are attached to it. For example, the stamp duty, and there's also an understanding that you need a larger deposit. So the question is there a way to mitigate those costs? So for example, using a limited company, and again with the limited company, do you always have to have a property in your name, or can it be owned by a different entity, like I don't know, like some sort of consortium with 2 or 3 people, for example?
Okay, that's all. Okay, several questions you've asked. Now, so if you buy a buy-to-let, it would be 25% anyway, as against if you were buying your first property, it will be 5% or 10%. But if it's buy-to-let, it will be 25%. Now, the government, because the government doesn't like buy-to-let, okay, because they think there are people who own 5 houses, 10 houses, 20 houses. Some other people are trying to get on the property ladder. They can't. So the government thinks what's driving it is, demand and supply. So if somebody keeps buying a lot of properties, then the demand property prices keeps going up. So it goes beyond the reach of a first-time person who has just graduated from the university. So you find that if you buy a buy-to-let in your name now, and then you rent it out, literally there are all kinds of charges such as to discourage you. So, I mean, I personally have a few properties in my name, but many of the ones I'm having now, I don't have them in my name. I just have it in the name of the company, not myself. So if you have it in the name of the company, what then happens is your accountant would do your accounts at the end of the year. So your accountant will say, okay, you're making 500 from this property. This is your mortgage. However, a boiler was spoiled. There was an admin fee to keep taking care of the property. There was a cleaning fee. They will look for all kinds of things, really. And so this is the only money that you can remit back based on your expenses. So you find that many people now, when they want to do buy-to-let, they do it in the name of the company. And to be honest with you, I would encourage anybody who is looking at buy-to-let to do it in the name of a company. It's just easier. You're the director of that company. It's just better, okay, based on government policies. So your other question, can a group of guys come together? Yeah, well, a group of guys can be the director of the company. A group of guys can also buy it together, but it doesn't make any difference really. You will still be paying quite a lot because it's in your name. So I'd say if you have a set of friends who are looking to pool money together, you just form a company, be the directors of that company, and then buy it in the name of that company, and then build a pool of portfolio in the name of that company. And basically that's what it is. So yeah. So I hope I've been able to answer your questions here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I think we have 2 more questions. First of all is Tayo, and then Emmanuel had another question. So we'll take those 2 and then we'd have to round up.
Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Tayo, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you, sir. I just really wanted to ask around LTVs and how it affects your mortgage rates or the interest rates that the banks charge you.
Okay. LTV, for people who have not done a mortgage before, it simply means loan to value. Okay. Loan to value means what's the percentage. So you've heard us saying if you wanted to buy with Help to Buy, you put down 5%, the government puts down 20%, then you take a 75% mortgage. So you are taking a 75% LTV, if it makes any sense, okay? Now, if you, let's say you're not doing help to buy, let's say you're putting 5% down, and then you're getting a mortgage from Halifax or Bank of Scotland or Lloyds Bank or Barclays or whoever. So they're giving you 95% mortgage because their risk is higher, because literally they're the ones funding that property. You'll find that the rates that they give you is higher. But let's say you are able to put down 10% or 15% or even 20% of the property price as your deposit. So say you have more deposits, then the rate will drop because you are taking part of the risk. Again, what I would say is depending on your situation, you just have to look at it. So at times, based on your situation, based on immigration, based on if you have credit cards, for instance, if you need a mortgage, they look at credit cards. Do you already own money on credit cards? So you own 5,000 here, you own 2,000 here. They look at your outgoing, your incoming, and then they look at, okay, God forbid, there's a recession. Would this stretch you? So they will look at all those things. So you might discover that a particular lender says, well, this is what we can offer you. A particular lender might say, we're not even able to touch you. So you just have to look at different mortgages that you're able to get, look at the loan to value, and then whatever it is, and then make a decision. Okay, for instance, I'll give an instance. There were a few properties that we built. We didn't want to sell them. We wanted to keep them. So there were 3 of them. So we put it in the name of the company. So we transferred it from the company that built it. We transferred it to a different company. And then I needed to take out a bit of money. We needed to leave 25% in it. And then the loan to value, there were 2 different companies. One was giving a lower rate. Another one would do it within a time frame. They won't even ask any question and all that. And I just needed to make a decision. So I needed to compare if somebody's giving me 2.5%, somebody's giving me 2.75%. So that's little percentage. What does it translate to in terms of money over 1 year, over 2 years, over 3 years? So let's say the mortgage is 3 years. Sometimes you might just look at it and say, yeah, look, it's only 750, it doesn't matter. So it's just making a decision based on that. But literally, you want to try and see the lowest loan to value that you can get. But in reality, for you to get a low loan to value, you need to look for more money and put down as deposit. So it's just finding the balance for you. Okay. I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Emmanuel, you had your hand raised. I don't know if you still have a question.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, Pastor, that my question kind of ties into what you just said now in terms of does it make sense if you have 5%, for example, to wait till you get 10% before you go and we're trying to get on the property?
It might not. It might, not. If I have 5%, but also bear in mind that 5% is only your deposit. By the time you have to pay solicitor's fee, isn't it? Your solicitor's fee, conveyancing fee,
and the searches,
around, will be just over £1,000. Everything, searches and all that. Think about it that unless that property that you're moving into, unless the person selling it, they are leaving their furnitures in there, you need to buy new furnitures. Okay, there might be 1 or 2 things that you need to do. So literally, it's not only that 5%. By the time you think about it, you might even be looking at maybe 8%, another 3% when you think about other costs, to be honest. So if I have 5% and literally that's all I have, then I'm stretching. Anytime I'm stretching, maybe it's not time. Don't just leave it. Okay, God will make another way. Just wait, save a little bit more, and then there will always be opportunities anyway. It doesn't really matter. God, whether they're selling high, there's a recession, there will always be opportunities. So wait. If, however, I have 5% and I have all the extras, it doesn't stop me from looking. So I would look. I used to just stay on Rightmove, just I was not involved as a pastor, just stay on right move, just like I showed you. Just look for new ones, old ones, compare. At times you book a viewing, you go there, you just look, you ask questions, you're just learning, okay? It doesn't stop you. You might come across a very good opportunity, a good deal. Maybe somebody is divorcing, they have a problem, they have to sell quickly, they are relocating to Australia, they need a quick sale, blah, blah. You might get a good deal, fine. If you don't get a good deal, you just wait. But if you have a certain level of money, there's nothing stopping you from looking. But if you think you're stretching, just look, but don't stretch yourself. Just tell yourself that, look, I'm going to save for another 6 months or 9 months, and then whatever happens, happens. Really, yeah.
Great, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very, 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 very much, sir. Ore and Daya, you still have your hands raised. Is that because you have a question and you just forgot to put your hands down?
Maybe they didn't put their hands down.
I think they forgot.
I forgot to clarify something about the question I asked earlier. So
Okay,
specifically, hypothetically, if you had a property and then you acquired a second one with a company that you're a director of, would that exempt you from paying the stamp duty on the second property?
Sorry. So you have a property in your name as a
Mhm.
first-time buyer.
Mm-hmm.
You then have another property and you are a director and it's bought in the name of a company.
Yeah.
You'll still pay stamp duty anyway because it's a buy to let, regardless.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mm.
Okay. I have learned so much. I don't know about everybody else, but it looks like everybody else too learned so much. And I just want to really thank you, sir, for making the time to talk to us today. It has been very informative and very, very, very awesome. So thank you so much for that. I have recorded the whole of the conversation